And we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aparna from Inc42. GST will go live today at 12 midnight. A lot of people have a lot of questions about how is it going to affect our lives and how will it affect the startup ecosystem. To elaborate on the same, I have Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran with us. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Mr. Kumaran is the founder and managing partner of Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan. He has over 3 decades of experience in tax law, IPR, and international trade. So let's start with the basic question, sir. Why a uniform tax regime like GST was necessary for India?
Oh, we have been living for the past 60 years with a chaotic tax structure, especially on commodities and services. We had all sorts of levies like excise duties, custom duties, service tax, entry tax, VAT, etc. Each of them is actually a cascading effect on the price of the goods. It became absolutely opaque with the total quantum of taxes paid on the commodities. Exports became very uncompetitive because you are not able to get the drawback of all the taxes paid on the goods at the earlier stage. And therefore, the industry was suffering, exporters were suffering, and this one nation, one tax is a boon. And taxes paid in one state was not available as a credit in another state. Now it is available.
Okay.
It is a great forward step for the government to take.
Okay. So a lot of people have been talking about dates. So what are the important dates in a month for returns?
I think when you're talking about the startups and small companies, you should not worry at all. Actually, basically, if you file 3 returns, good enough.
Okay.
One is called GTR1.
Okay.
Basically, what is the outward supply you make, whether the goods or services, whatever you supply, you file a return by 10th of next month.
Okay.
Then, whatever goods or service received by you in the whole last month, you file a return by 15th of next month called GTR2. So these two will know what is the liability to pay, what is the credit you can take. Once you adjust these two, what is the tax liability you have to pay, you have to do by 20th of next month.
Okay.
So therefore, basically concentrate on 3 returns only as far as you are concerned. These 3 returns will suffice as far as this present thing is concerned. If you are operating from one particular state, if you are operating more than one state, obviously you will have multiple of these two. Annually, one return you have to file.
Okay.
So normally we hear always that there is compliance has gone up, etc. If you are a manufacturing sector or a service sector from one particular place, one particular state in India, compliance level is less.
Okay. Okay. So there arises a question. For instance, a bill is generated on the 28th of this month, which is 28th of June, and GST is going to be live on 1st of July. So if a bill is generated on 28th and payment is received after 1st of July, let's say 5th of July, so will it be eligible to be paid as a service tax or will it be service tax? Okay, okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. What is the invoice format that is prescribed under GST?
Under the GST, fortunately, they have not prescribed in a particular format.
Okay.
The rules prescribe what are the fields must cover, like name of the supplier, name of the receiver, what is the GST number of the supplier, what is the GST number of the receiver, date, by which vehicle, mode, etc. So therefore, these are the fields which have to be created. And you can design your own invoice, no problem whatsoever.
Okay.
These fields have to be captured.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the next question. What is the provision of credit note, debit note, and revise invoice? So is there a time limit to issue all of these?
A good question. See, when does a credit note arise? I supply certain goods or services. I charge a particular price. The customer complains saying that no, the price is a little higher, and you issue a credit note. The minute you issue a credit note, your liability comes down. Is the contra in the case of debit notes. I sell the product, you feel I have charged a price less, therefore you want to charge a higher price, in which case liability goes up.
Okay.
So therefore, in both these things, either the tax liability comes down in the case of credit note, tax liability goes up in the case of debit note. There is no restriction as to how many credit notes you can issue in a month or a year. All the law says is, if you are issuing a credit note for this year, the beyond September next year, you can't get any benefit.
Okay.
If you issued a credit note, you can adjust it. If you are going it beyond September for this year, you will not get an adjustment.
Okay.
Same in the case of debit notes. You issue no problem at all. The buyer or the receiver can take the extra credit. Whatever, because debit note means you have to pay extra tax. Having paid extra tax, the buyer or the receiver can take extra credit. But only thing is, if you do it, if he does it beyond September, he loses the credit. So therefore, what is important is how to manage the September deadline. This financial year, the whole of April 17 to March 18, all the debit note, credit note, etc., must be finalized by September 1918.
Okay.
2018.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So what about reverse charge mechanism in case purchase is made from unregistered dealers?
First of all, we must understand the concept of unregistered dealer supply receives. Take the commodity in question. This commodity or the service is otherwise taxable at all. There are many commodities that are zero percentage. It is nil tax. If those goods are purchased from unregistered dealer, also no issue.
Okay.
No tax. But if tax is leviable on a particular commodity or a service, and if receiving it from an unregistered dealer, then the reverse charge mechanism, you have to pay the tax. What would have been paid by him, you will have to pay now.
Okay.
That's the only principle.
Okay. So can you enumerate some services that are exempted from this tax that you see? Like, for instance, tea, coffee, for a startup. Let's say if you're taking these services from an unregistered dealer. So
see, up to 5,000 rupees a day, even if you receive from anybody,
okay,
you don't have to pay tax on the reverse charge.
Okay.
They have done an exemption about 2 days before.
Okay.
That if you are a startup, if you are buying tea, biscuits, etc., up to 5,000 rupees a day, even if the person supplying to your unregistered dealer, you don't have to.
Okay.
Only when it is beyond that, in a day when you are going to receive, then only the tax liability comes in.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Let's move on to the So let's move on to the next question. What is the concept of time of supply under GST?
Yeah. Any tax law, especially commodity tax law, you must know when to pay the tax. That is, when the liability arises for paying the tax. So therefore, where it arises, when it arises, they are most important as far as any taxation structure. As far as the GST is concerned, the time of supply, you divide into two portions: supply of goods, supply of services. If the supply of goods, on what date you are receiving the invoice, or what date you receive the payment. Earlier of these two dates is called time of supply. In the case of services, it is what date you raise the invoice, what date you receive the payment, or what day actually ended the service. These two will determine, earliest date will determine time. So on this particular day, the supply is deemed to have been delivered. Now, if there is a rate change before this date, obviously revised rate will apply. If the rate changes after the time of supply, this supply will not be affected.
Okay, so this is the concept of time of supply here. Now let's talk about input credit. So how can one claim input credit on closing stock as of 30th June 2017?
Let's now divide the entire question to 2-3 parts.
Okay.
First one, you have received the goods, you have taken the credit is lying in unutilized in your credit register. Automatically that gets transferred to the new GST register. There is a form called Tran 1. Okay. If you fill it up, you are good. Second, you received the goods. The goods are lying in stock as on that date. Whatever credit you are entitled, you can take the credit. Therefore, that is not lost.
Okay.
So therefore, as far as the transition provisions are concerned, the government has been very careful. As much as possible, they have provided the relief. And goods in transit, goods in stock, goods in work in progress, goods lying as part of unit goods. So many situations they have taken. In all those cases, they have provided the transition provisions.
Okay.
Very, very considerate.
Okay. So let's talk about how will GST affect the SMEs. Is there a difference between a tax regime for offline or online sellers under GST?
We'll divide the question into two portions. When you talk about SMEs, if there are tiny sector whose turnover is less than 20 lakhs, they don't have to put it. No registration, no tax.
Okay.
If your turnover is up if the turnover is up to 75 lakhs, there is a provision of compounding. What it means is, depending upon the commodity or service you're going to provide, the tax rate will be 1% or 2.5%, etc. In such case, you don't take any credit, you pay this amount, be done with it. Only difficulty in both the cases, enjoying the exemption or paying the taxes of 1%, 2.5%, you are actually breaking the credit chain. When you break the credit chain, what does it mean? The buyer or the receiver of the supply cannot take the credit. Either 1%, 2% you paid also cannot take credit. What you have not paid also will not take credit. Really, what happens is, whatever inputs you have received, input service received by this SMEs, when they are breaking the chain, this tax, they cannot take credit.
Okay.
It becomes a cost. That the buyer, when he buys the goods from you or services from you, he has to pay higher amount of taxes from his side without any credit whatsoever. Therefore, anybody who breaks the chain in between will actually make the product costlier.
Okay.
Therefore, some of the buyers may be reluctant to buy from you if you are in a compounded scheme or in the exemption scheme. So therefore, the whole idea is you come into the GST credit chain, pay the taxes, take the credit, pass on, so that the price of the goods are still kept at the minimum.
Okay.
That's the whole idea.
Okay. So somebody here asked a question that do e-commerce businesses also need GSTIN?
Of course, yes. See, e-commerce is what? Sale of goods through a portal. Let us understand two things. If you are a seller, if you are selling not online, offline on your own stores, you can actually enjoy 20 lakh exemption if you want to. But if you are going to sell your product through e-commerce portal, you don't get the 20 lakh. You must take registration from the day one.
Okay.
So therefore, as far as the sellers are concerned who are going to sell through the e-commerce portal, they lose the 20 lakhs benefit and they pay the taxes straight away. In which case, what really happens is the exemption which was otherwise available will be lost. But look at the positive side. These small sellers can actually take the credit of the taxes paid on the inputs received by them, and they can sell through they can actually do the credit, and therefore the price of the product can be cheaper to the ultimate buyer. Therefore, there is a larger incentive for them to go and sell through the offline portal.
Okay. So will GST have an inflationary effect on goods and services initially? Because there was a lot of confusion. This is going to be expensive. Let's say mobile phones that are imported might get expensive, or and what, according to you, will be the sector that will be most affected in terms of startups?
So basically, let us look at short term, long term. As far as the short term is concerned, wherever the goods are lying in stock, in the warehouse, distributor level, dealer level, retail level, come tonight midnight, all these stocks have to pay higher tax because the tax rate will go slightly.
Okay.
Having said that, the government said, all right, you are going to pay the higher amount of taxes. You don't have the tax paying documents with you. I shall give you provisionally a credit of 40% to 60%. And this should soften the blow, basically. With this, you try to manage. Even this also may not be enough. That is why you see a lot of advertisements saying the pre-GST stock.
Yeah,
You
stock
think I give the
clearance
credit.
sale
Because
and
in case I am going to lose this money post 1st July,
okay.
let me put it as a sell gimmick and then come buy and then I'll give you large discounts. All this basically is this stock, if it is sold post July, it is going to necessarily affect the price and I'm going to lose money. Let me do it now at this stage. That's the principle. That is the short term. And when the long term is concerned, I would say generally the goods rates are lowered. Generally, some exception, leave alone that. Generally, the government has taken into account what is the existing taxes that are being paid cumulatively on a commodity all over India. And then they apply the principle of equivalence and then fix the rate, which is generally lower than what is being paid, excepting marginally some might go up. Otherwise it is. But they have also extended the credit completely. So therefore, I would say long term, the prices of commodities should come down.
Okay, in the long term.
In the long term.
Okay.
Barring this hiccup in the first 3 months, 6 months, the old stock being sold, etc. Otherwise, I would say as far as the commodities are concerned, the prices should come down generally. It is coming down not only because of the rate coming down or the credit, it also because the supply chain and the distribution chain can become more efficient.
And their markups are reduced. So.
In fact, logistic companies are going to be the largest beneficiaries of the entire thing. Just imagine, with the time taken for moving the goods from place A to place B, if it normally takes 20 days, it can reduce it by 8 to 10 days.
Yeah.
That means the waiting in the check post, etc., will come down. Once e-way rules are through, it should come through. So therefore, logistics companies are going to be the greatest beneficiaries, and that benefit, when it is passed on to the manufacturing sector, obviously the prices will come down. And secondly, today the manufacturing sector has got various warehouses in different states, basically to avoid payment of central sales tax. So today our distribution systems are all based on efficiency of the tax. This will go. Once the GST comes in, the tax paid in one state is available as a credit in another state. So therefore, you don't have to have different warehouses in different states. You can actually close down many of the warehouses and thereby bring in efficiency, and this will actually reduce the cost of operations and therefore increase bottom line. That is the greatest advantage in the GST regime.
Okay. So we are going to take a question from the audience again. There's Arun. He says he's registered at Bangalore, and he wants to know if he has to register individually at all other states. He has an e-commerce business, so he wants to know if he needs to register in all the other states.
You must ask a question to him. Whether I don't know how to ask a question. I'll put a question myself. If he is having an operation in Bangalore, if the buyers are going to be all over India, he need not worry. One registration in Bangalore is enough.
Okay.
But if he is going to operate from 4 or 5 cities in India, other different states, from there also you are going to trade or e-commerce there, then and only then there will be a requirement for him to take the registration in those states. I repeat, if he is having e-commerce portal in Bangalore and if he is operating from there, even if a customer is from Assam, he need not take a registration in Assam.
Okay. Okay. Great. We are going to take another question. You talked about the manufacturing sector. Anupran Trivedi here wants to ask that what will be the impact on electronics manufacturing industry specifically, which is located in India?
See, the tax structure in electronic goods, by and large, consumer electronics basically is coming down. Moreover, the inputs and input services used in the manufacture of the electronic goods you are going to get seamless credit.
Okay.
And therefore, generally the prices should come down and improve the efficiency in logistics, distribution chain and the supply chain. Definitely I see that there is a reduction in the cost, cash flow system will become better, and most important, bottom line will go up. And I can see very clearly that there is a larger reach of electronic goods in the market.
Okay, over a period of time, great.
Yes.
So let's, now that we're talking about the impact on startup, let's talk about what is going to be the impact on service startups, that the startups that provide technology solutions or, services like that.
See, basically, I'll put it this way. While I was talking about the commodities taxes generally coming down, as far as service sector is concerned, it has slightly gone up. From average rate of 15%, it has gone to 18%. But with the extra credit and all those things. So there is going to be a higher cost or higher price for the services because of the taxation. That is going to be. But let us take a case of startup. He provides technology solutions to various customers. These solutions are taxable under service tax. Instead of paying 15% yearly, we'll pay 18%.
Okay.
But he does not worry because the customer who is getting it, in 99% of the cases, can take the credit. So therefore, this is not going to be a cost for the buyer or the service receiver. On the contrary, the service provider, technology solution provider, who was not otherwise taking any credit in the past, can now take the credit on various items.
Okay.
Therefore, effectively, his cost of service will come down, though the tax paid on the service will be a little higher. The customer is not worried because customer is now going to enjoy the benefit of reduction in cost of services by the supplier.
Okay. Okay. So there are a lot of early stage startups that do not have a revenue model. I mean, they're not gaining any revenue. So what about them? How is GST going to work out for them?
Revenue model means what?
They are not revenue generating yet.
That means nothing to pay then.
Okay, they don't have anything.
Okay. If you have nothing to gain, nothing to pay.
Okay. Okay. So how is GST going to impact? We've talked about logistics and electronic manufacturing. How is it going to impact food delivery startups?
Food delivery is basically what? Again, a service. See, if we are going to have food in a restaurant, then you are going to pay the taxes there. On the contrary, if you are going to order over phone or by electronically, if the goods are going to come, the person is going to charge you for the price of the food and the cost of delivery. Now, basically what will happen is, in a situation of this nature, this became a combined service because it will consolidated price will be charged for the food as also for the delivery. And since food is the main item, delivery is the subsidiary item, whatever taxes payable on the food will be included. As far as this food delivery service is concerned, he will charge the food manufacturer or the supplier and he'll pay the tax on it. Food supplier will take credit of that and ultimately supply it. Therefore, the service tax paid by the food delivery persons is not going to be a cost at all. It will be ultimately be subsumed in the food delivery mechanism.
Okay. Okay. Finally, let's move on to what are the commodities according to you in our daily lives that are going to be most effective? If we talk about 5 products, let's say that are going to increase in terms of their cost, even if it's in a long term.
See, what I find in my own calculation, cement is one item where the rates are going up.
Okay.
So therefore, if you are going to build a fancy house,
that's going to become
that is going to become costlier.
Okay.
On the point, fertilizer, slightly there is going to be an increase in the prices.
Okay.
Of course, the government may subsidize separately. That's the matter. Base metals, again iron and steel and copper, etc. I see there is a slight reduction, increase in the prices,
Okay.
but that will again offset and the product ultimately being manufactured. Small cars, the rates slightly going up. Luxury cars, the rates are more or less being maintained at 43%. And of course, we got sin goods, aerated water, etc., where every day you want to go drink the carbonated waters, there is going to be a slight increase in the price.
Okay. Okay.
As far as the reduction is concerned, when I looked at it, the processed food items will become cheaper. Consumer electronics will become also cheaper. Large cars can become cheaper if they're efficient. if they are efficient. I'm not asking you to tell them to come to me. I'm just giving you an idea. Two-wheelers also become slightly cheaper. Home appliances can also become cheaper.
Okay. Okay, that's some relief. Something is going to change. So we are a media organization. There are a lot of people who write. So how do you think GST is going to affect the work and the how is it going to impact bloggers and freelancers?
Are you going to pay them? Huh? You're going to pay. Okay. What is the amount they'll pay in a whole year? You mean the bloggers and the writers, will they get about 1 crore and 2?
Maybe if they're good at it.
They're good at it, then they will pay tax on it.
Okay.
And then you'll have to take credit, and then when you pay the taxes, you can take the credit on this.
Okay. Okay. So
if you are not paying anything, if the freelancers are not getting anything out of it, then they don't have to pay tax.
Okay.
You enjoy the
non-revenue making, so no tax needs to be paid.
Basically, I mean, there are two types of people who engage, or they do some research and then charge you. But there are people who philanthropists, they feel like communicating to many people, they don't charge also. So
Okay.
I think both type of people exist. No
Okay.
problem.
Reshma here wants to know that she has a private limited company incorporated and set up in Mumbai and into the field of mobile app development. And their first app is yet under development and they haven't sold anything.
Okay.
And they say that they are using a particular service by a cloud service provider and they are paying out salaries, rent and light and internet bill. So she wants to know, is her startup entitled to enroll for GST as they are not into sale of any kind yet?
See, if they are not selling anything at this point of time, there is no output tax payable.
Okay.
Obviously. But they are paying salaries. Salaries, employees are in any case not taxable. If there are other services which they are utilizing, they can take the credit now, but there is no utilization. However, as and when there is a chance for them to sell their app to somebody or charge a fee for that, etc., at that time they will pay tax. So this credit taken now can be utilized during that time.
Okay, so your advice would be that she should take a GST, she should be enrolled in GST.
But only thing is, the minute she takes registration, then the unregistered buyers, unregistered dealers, suppliers, etc., will have to pay tax.
Okay.
Therefore,
more than 5,000.
So therefore, you have to take a balanced decision. What it is going to be, when is it likely to, is product available for sale, etc., for the charges, etc. Around about the time you can take.
Okay. Pratyush here wants to know, how will GST impact the payment aggregators and payment gateway companies?
Very good question. A long question, but I mean long answers. The question is short. I mean, basically, let us take who is an aggregator basically. The aggregator as a concept comes in where the service providers are many, service receivers are many.
Yeah.
If service providers are less, receivers are more, the government can collect from the less number of people. So ultimately, government also wants to convenience the collection. Cost of collection also should be less. So therefore, if the service receivers are less, providers are many, better take a tax from the service receivers. That's called reverse charge.
Okay.
Aggregators is a situation where both the providers and the receivers are many. It is difficult to go and catch them. For example, say Uber. Person having number of taxis are many. Person who are going to receive the service also many. The government can asking you to pay the tax every time. You will say get lost. So therefore what they do, the aggregator named Uber, who is using the electronic portal on which you are now paying, he says now, I deem it as if we are providing the service as a taxi, you pay the tax.
Okay.
So this one, the aggregation tax as a concept comes in when there is notified. It's not every time you have to pay the tax, etc.
Okay.
If there are notified aggregators by the notification, then those aggregators become liable to pay the tax for in respect of those services which are rendered by the service providers.
Okay. If you're talking about cab aggregators, will cab, hailing a cab, taking a cab become more expensive or?
No, much more cheaper.
Okay.
Much more cheaper.
Okay. Um, okay. Uh, there's another question that we talked about goods and services. So, can input credit be claimed on goods for services and vice versa? Like, there's no, a lot of people still don't have a clarity on that. That some are saying that input credit and on services can only be, you know, they can only claim it on services and not goods.
That is wrong. There is a complete misconception. The credit earned on the goods can be utilized for payment of tax on services, and the credit earned on services can be utilized for payment of goods. Both are easily fungible, no difficulty, absolute no difficulty. Similarly, the interstate purchases which you make on which IGST is paid, you can actually utilize the credit for payment of tax on central GST or state GST. Okay. The only restriction in the entire thing is, water credit you have taken on central GST, you cannot utilize for payment of state GST. Water credit you have taken for state GST, you cannot utilize for central GST. That is the only restriction.
Okay.
But there is no restriction whatsoever
on goods and
for the goods and services or vice versa.
Okay. Okay. So GST is going to be live today at midnight. So what, according to you, will be, even now, what steps can a startup take to be GST ready?
See, I'll tell you, we need to necessarily clear the mindset. GST is a game changer. The GST is going to be the future, and we must utilize GST to the full advantage. Please don't think that the GST is a weapon, it is a danger. It is a weapon. Use it in your advantage. My sincere advice to everybody is take credit, and take credit. That is the mantra. If we can utilize this, I can see tremendous amount of growth as far as the startups are concerned, and you can utilize GST as a real tool. Readiness, these startups are intelligent people. The people, they come with so much energy. This is nothing. What I find whenever I deal with the startup companies, they are so enthusiastic in their program, in their product development, etc., etc. They give least importance to law, unfortunately. But legal compliance is also important. And I can understand a fresh graduate from the IIT, he is not worried about the law part of it, he is worried about his apps. My advice would be, just take the advice of I'm not saying me, but good law firms. I mean, for example, we have a program for the startups. We don't charge the normal rate for what we charge for the multinational companies. Very, very nominal charges for the startup, because that is as a matter of service. So, give that particular portion legal compliance to these people. You concentrate on work. As you grow big, then you can see what you should do, etc. But most important thing is, let us embrace GST and not.
Okay. Priyansh here wants to know, how will GST impact the rental services?
Rental service of what? Rental service of goods, rental service of flats, rental service of commercial later. I'll answer all because he is not here to answer this.
Okay.
See, today it is possible to rent your laptop.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
Laptop itself, I bought it. You are going abroad for 6 months, I want to go to somebody, etc., you can rent it. Or I buy capital goods, machineries. You don't have the money to buy, so you can rent it. Airline companies, they may not buy the aircraft, they may rent it or lease it. When you lend or lease these goods, it is deemed as a service.
Okay.
It's not deemed as a goods.
Okay, it's a service.
It is service. Pay service tax on it.
Okay.
And take credit on it. Whatever business you do, you take the credit. Because you are paying it, you take the credit. That is what the rental. If you go to real estate, for example, if you are running an office and office building is rented out, so the person owning the landlord will pay the service tax on the renting of this building. You will reimburse the tax could take the credit.
Okay.
That's no issue.
Okay.
So the renting as a concept, whether it is a commodity or real estate, immovable property, in both the cases, tax is payable, but you can take the credit.
Okay. Okay. Sonia here wants to know, is there any impact on registry charges of property? She said that property is under loan by bank and has been bought 2 years back. Only registry is due now and the last installment due from the bank to the builder. What should they do for this?
In all these things, first of all, we must understand real estate transaction as such is outside GST.
Okay.
If you are selling a property, whether it's a flat or a building or a hotel or mall, whatever it is, the sale of the property itself is not covered GST.
Okay.
Only stamp duty will charge.
Okay.
However, there is an exception. And always exception to the tax law.
Definitely,
It is
yeah.
not at all easy. If there is a builder who is building number of flats, a complex. Suppose he has made 100 flats, and prospective buyers buy. Now, there can be people, say about 50 people, have already paid advance in the beginning, or they, as when the building is coming up, they are coming and buying the flats at different level of prices. And building project is completed, say by 1st of July 2017. The cutoff date is the completion certificate.
Okay.
When does this builder get the completion certificate from the project authority, from the concerned municipal authority? Any purchase made by a buyer after this completion date, it is not GST, it will be stamp duty.
Okay.
If you have purchased the flats earlier,
Before
EMI or
the
whatever it is, etc., before the completion date,
certificate.
it is treated as a service.
Okay. Then they
Then
have
GST
to
will
pay
be
GST.
then GST will be paid.
Okay.
The GST will be paid on the money transaction which is going to pay. You will have to pay tax. In addition to that, stamp duty also become payable. That's a different matter. As far as the GST is concerned, if the purchaser has purchased the flat from the builder before the completion certificate is granted, then this transaction will liable tax. So therefore, as far as her question is concerned, it is not the question whether the registry taking place later or now. The question to be asked is whether the completion certificate has been obtained prior to her purchase or after her purchase.
Okay.
If the purchase is taken place after the completion certificate, no GST,
No.
only the stamp duty.
Stamp duty.
That's it.
Okay. Rajkumar here wants to know if there is a turnover limit for people to apply for GST. We talked
20
about
lakhs. 20 lakhs
20 lakhs
per person, for all India level.
Okay. 20 lakhs a year?
Year.
In a year. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Akash here wants to know how will GST impact restaurant and cafe startups? There are a lot of food, like not in food delivery, but
Restaurant startup.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I would think I always want to start a restaurant because it's one of the nice business. That is the only case where there is no credit. We eat, pay the money, go. So, in respect to restaurants, whenever a person comes and has his food or snacks, restaurant bill will issue one tax called GST tax. He has to be paid. The customer will pay along with the price. There is nothing else.
Okay.
So therefore, restaurant business, earlier you used to have a VAT, there is
sales
also
tax, education
CST,
cess,
then where the service
Swachh
tax,
Bharat tax and all that.
Oh, something.
Acha. So can they charge a separate service tax because
No, there is only one
just
GST
one
tax.
uniform
That's
tax.
it.
Okay. That's really great. Anirudh here wants to know how will GST impact schools?
School. As far as the school is concerned, we will divide into two categories. The primary school, secondary school, colleges, etc. They are all providing basic education, no tax.
Okay.
GST is not covered. Fortunately, in this country and other countries also, basic education, basic health care is not covered with GST at all. They are completely exempt.
Okay.
However, if the school has extracurricular activities or if they are training people for IIT, etc., those
Tuitions,
tuitions,
coaching
etc.,
institute.
coaching institution, they will get taxed.
Okay. Rahul here wants to know how will GST impact if if a startup has foreign clients in service industry like software development. Earlier, service tax was not applicable due to export of services. What will be the
same position continues?
Okay.
Absolutely no problem. Sorry, I didn't allow you to complete the question.
No, that's okay. No, yeah.
So the same thing continues. The export is deemed as export, and he can enjoy all the benefit of exports, and also he can take the credit of all the input services. He cannot utilize it because the entire thing export. He can claim refund.
Okay. Aaron, we answered his question that he was registered in Bangalore. He has another question. He says, what if you are only purchasing interstate and selling only interstate? Do we lose the IGST?
No. See, basically, if there is a person who is making interstate sale, then the sale will be IGST.
Okay.
If he is buying or selling interstate sale, he will pay or reimburse the IGST. But IGST is available as a credit when he is making further sale within the state.
Okay. Okay. So I think that answers most of our questions. We will just wrap up with a note of thanks for all the audience who gathered here with their queries. I hope we were able to answer their doubts, and a big vote of thanks to you, sir, for taking out the time. And if anybody has any queries, as sir said, they have a program that they're helping startups with the lesser amount of money
much less.
Charged. Yeah, much less.
I'm not worried about the brand Lakshmi, Kumaran, which is normally charged, etc. People are afraid to come. Ask them to come freely. They are most welcome. We will provide them the right solution at the prices they cannot imagine.
Okay. With that,
I don't want to charge it free because nobody has a
the
value.
People will not
value
the services. Definitely, it's a complicated process.
Premium service at the cheaper prices.
Okay. With that, we are going to end the live session here. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and thank you so much, sir. And stay tuned to Inc42. We shall be back with more informative videos. Have a good day and all the best for GST. Thank you.
Thank you.